All right, so on, let's see what page this is. Page 3 at the top of the page. The gray-eyed goddess, yeah, this is an epithet. She gets called the gray-eyed goddess ad nauseum. So know that this is Athena. Okay. The gray-eyed goddess Athena replied to Zeus, O majesty, O father of us all, that man is in the dust indeed and justly. So perish all who do what he had done. But my own heart is broken for Odysseus, the mastermind of war, so long a castaway upon an island in the running sea, a wooded island in the sea's middle, and there's a goddess in the place, the daughter of one whose baleful mind knows all the deeps of the blue sea, Atlas, who holds the columns that bear from land the great thrust of the sky. So we find out that Calypso is the daughter of Atlas. And remember, Atlas supposedly holds up the world. His daughter will not let Odysseus go. Poor mournful man. She keeps on coaxing him with her beguiling talk to turn his mind from Ithaca. But such desire is in him merely to see the hearth smoke leaping upward from his own island that he longs to die. Are you not moved by this, Lord of Olympus? Had you no pleasure from Odysseus's offerings beside the Argive ships on Troy's wide seaboard? Okay, here's another term for the Greek, excuse me. Argive. O Zeus, what do you hold against him now? To this, the summoner of cloud. Summoner of cloud refers to Zeus. To this, the summoner of cloud replied, My child, what strange remarks you let escape you? Could I forget that kingly man, Odysseus? There is no mortal half so wise, no mortal gave so much to the lords of open sky. Only the god who laps the land and water, Poseidon, bears the fighter an old grudge since he poked out the eye of Polyphemus, brawniest of the Cyclopses. If you're familiar with any part of the Odyssey, you probably know this already. Polyphemus is a Cyclops, and he is also the son of Poseidon. And one of Poseidon's tricks was to basically escape from Polyphemus, and he did so by blinding him. And then he had the stupidity, or lack of wisdom, to say, It was I, Odysseus, who blinded you, ha 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 ha. And so Polyphemus calls out to his daddy, Hey, Poseidon, Odysseus blinded me. I need revenge. Can you get him for me? So anyway, back to our text. Who bore that giant lout? Thusa, daughter of Phorcys, an offshore sea lord, for this nymph had lain with Lord Poseidon in her hollow caves. Naturally, the god, after the blinding, mind you, he does not kill the man, but only buffets him away from home. But come now, we are all at leisure here. Let us take up this matter of his return, that he may sail. Poseidon must relent, for being quarrelsome will get him nowhere. One god flouting the will of all the gods. Kind of saying, it's us, all of us, against Poseidon. The gray-eyed goddess Athena answered him, O majesty, O father of us all, if it now please the blissful gods that wise Odysseus reach his home again, let the wayfinder Hermes cross the sea to the island of Ogygia, and let him tell our fixed intent to the nymph with pretty braids, and let the steadfast man depart for home. Okay, so basically what that's saying is Hermes, who is the messenger god, is supposed to go to Calypso's island, which is also spelled like this, Ogygia, and to tell the nymph of, what was it? The nymph with pretty braids, that's another word for Calypso, that Odysseus, the steadfast man, can go home. All right. So she has one other plan too. For my part, I shall visit Ithaca to put more courage in the son and rouse him to call an assembly of the islanders, Achaean gentlemen with flowing hair. He must warn off that wolf pack of the suitors who prey upon his flocks and dusky cattle. I'll send him to the mainland then, to Sparta, by the sand beach of Pylos. Let him find news of his dear father where he may, and win his own renown about the world. So Athena is going to head to Ithaca, and she is going to talk to Odysseus's son, Telemachus, and kind of give him courage, send him on his journey, help him to make a name for himself so that by the time daddy comes home, he can be proud of who Telemachus has come out to be. So Hermes to Ogygia, and Athena, whoops, looks like I forgot the H there, to Ithaca. All right. She bent to tie her beautiful sandals on, ambrosial, golden, that carry her over water or over endless land on the wings of the wind, and took the great haft of her spear in hand, that bronze-shod spear this child of power can use, to break in wrath long battle lines of fighters. Flashing down from Olympus' height, she went to stand in Ithaca before the manor, just at the door-sill of the court. She seemed a family friend, the Taphian captain Mentes, waiting with a light hand on her spear. In other words, she just doesn't show up as Athena. She is Athena in disguise, and the best disguise she comes up with is this man, Mentes. Sometimes you'll see it as mentor, and she's going to help Telemachus. Before her eyes she found the lusty suitors casting dice inside the gate at ease, on hides of oxen they had killed. Okay, so this is a big problem. Odysseus is gone, and the men of Ithaca all come and start courting his wife Penelope. They want to marry her, but in the process of wooing her, tradition says she has to feed them, and so they keep eating the cattle and the sheep and everything that was Odysseus's. And so it would be really great if they can just shoo these suitors out of here. So that's where we're at. Top of page 5. Their own retainers made a busy sight, with houseboys mixing bowls of water and wine, or sopping water up in sponges, wiping tables to be placed about in hall, or butchering whole carcasses for roasting. Long before anyone else, the prince, Telemachus, now caught sight of Athena, for he too was sitting there unhappy among the suitors, a boy, daydreaming. What if his great father came from the unknown world and drove these men like dead leaves through the place, recovering honor and lordship in his own domains? Then he who dreamed in the crowd gazed out at Athena. So Telemachus sees her. He's pretty unhappy. He's daydreaming that his father would come home, drive all the suitors out. So he decides it's his job to welcome Mentes and kind of settles her in and make sure she's got everything she needs. Straight to the door he came, irked with himself to think a visitor had been kept there waiting, and took her right hand, grasping with his left her tall bronze-bladed spear. Then he said warmly, "Greeting, stranger. Welcome to our feast. There will be time to tell your errand later." This kind of gets into the Greek tradition too. You feed the stranger first. You never know when the gods or goddesses are going to show up unexpectedly at your door, and then you let them tell the story, just so that you don't accidentally anger them by not feeding them first. He led the way, and Pallas Athena followed into the lofty hall. The boy reached up and thrust her spear high in a polished rack against a pillar, where tough spear on spear of the old soldier, his father, stood in order. Then, shaking out a splendid coverlet, he seated her on a throne with footrest, all finely carved, and drew his painted armchair near her, at a distance from the rest. To be amid the din, the suitors' riot, would ruin his guest's appetite, he thought, and he wished privacy to ask for news about his father, gone for years. So he wants to find out if she knows anything about his father Odysseus. A maid brought them a silver finger bowl and filled it out of a beautiful spouting golden jug, then drew a polished table to their side. The larder mistress with her tray came by and served them generously. A carver lifted cuts of each roast meat to put on trenchers before the two. During this time period, they had something that was called a trencher. So it was basically this carved wooden bowl, and you would have your food in there, and you would either dip your hands in or dip pieces of bread in. And use your fingers pretty much, not forks or spoons or anything like that. Just going to finish up this last part. He gave them cups of gold, and these the steward, as he went on his rounds, filled again and again. Good pausing point.